This episode of The Road Shows me I'm in Uganda. From the minute I drive into Uganda, I know I'm on a good thing. I head up into the mountains just to get the feel for the country, and immediately I fall in love with the place. There's tiny little roads where I can explore, really friendly people everywhere I go, and of course, the volcanoes are looming in the distance. I know I'm somewhere special. And even though it's a big chunk of money at $600, I decide to go for it and book gorilla trekking for the very next day. A couple of park rangers need a ride, so I give them a lift in the Jeep and we talk all things gorillas on the way up. After walking for about 45 minutes, the scouts get really excited and it's clear we've arrived at the gorillas. This silverback is called Mark. He's the second known biggest silverback in the world. He weighs well over 200 kilograms, with just like 450 pounds. He's absolutely enormous. His arms are 3 times thicker than my legs. His hands would easily hold my head, and I'm 10 yards away, 7 yards away. Unreal. To say that I'm in awe of this immense creature is a huge understatement. I actually can't believe my own eyes. It doesn't seem real at all. We sit and watch the gorillas for over 45 minutes, and still the entire time I simply can't believe my own eyes. The huge silverback looks exactly like a child's teddy bear replica of a gorilla. He has a huge big beer gut with no fur on it, but where he does have fur on his arms and shoulders, it looks so soft and fluffy, it's almost tempting to go up and give him a pat. But of course, he could tear me limb from limb without even trying. To be so close to such a large animal, I don't even have words to describe what it felt like. Also, to see his facial expressions and the way he so clearly looks at me and recognizes what I am, it is absolutely unbelievable. Here you get a good idea of how absolutely enormous this silverback is and how close I get to him. I really don't want to be this close, but the guides keep waving me forward and telling me that it's perfectly okay. With him lying on his belly like this, I walked around in front of him and lay down only 5 yards away. I was able to lie there for over 10 minutes and film this. He just stared at me. Every now and again he'd look across at the baby gorillas, then he'd just look back at me, shrug his shoulders. He knew I was there, but he knew I wasn't a threat. It was so unbelievable to spend this time with him like this, in his forest, where he is so clearly king. If I haven't made it clear yet, this entire experience is utterly surreal. In the meantime, the other gorillas are crawling through the bamboo, eating, and the babies are even being really rambunctious and fighting. Still, the silverback just lies and observes everything. filming these other gorillas when the big guy decides it's time to move. He stands up and walks directly towards me, getting easily within 1 yard. I could reach out my hand and touch him, but I remain statue still as he comes storming past me. He's a tiny bit aggressive, but I think as soon as I don't move, he realizes he's won the fight before it even begins. After that, he just wanders on by, still knowing that he's the undefeated champion. Still in disbelief about the whole experience, I move away and head for new adventures. This is the road directly leaving the national park where I just visited the gorillas. It's absolutely beautiful and reminds me so much of small towns in Central America. The paved roads in Uganda are excellent going up and over the mountains, but they're a little bit boring for my tastes, so I turn off and find this great little track that follows the lake I'm aiming to get to. As you can see, there's no cars around, and I cruise along this little track for a few hours, still winding right along the lakeshore. It's a great way to spend the afternoon, and the occasional rain shower doesn't dampen my spirits at all. At the end of the day, I find this magic campsite right on the lakeshore. It doesn't get much better than this. Check this out. I've wanted to get one of these on film for a while. This truck in front of me here, watch how the rear wheels don't follow the front wheels. So here we go, we've just gone around a corner, now we're going in a straight line. Look how sideways the whole truck is. So the rear end is like half a foot to the right of the front end. So I don't know what's going on there, bent frame or something. Oh, there he goes, he's letting me past. But yeah, I've seen a lot of those, and I hope that one worked out on camera. While on the road to the capital of Kampala, I crossed the mighty equator for the third time in my life and the second time here in Africa. It's hard to believe I'm already back in the Northern Hemisphere, and in the back of my mind, I start to realize the end of this expedition isn't actually so far away after all. The traffic in the big city of Kampala is some of the worst I've ever seen on the continent, and it takes a staggering 3 hours just to drive a couple of miles, even on the big city bypass freeway. It's absolutely insane, and I'm so upset I can't even be bothered filming it. You guys all know what traffic looks like. So I move out of the city and head straight for the Nile River, where I set out whitewater rafting for a day. Safe to say, it is an adventure. The first rapid is a Class 5 waterfall, and I get kicked straight out into the raging river. Oh, it's a fun day. Here I'm heading towards the rafting town of Jinka, right on the river. Gives you a great idea of what rural Uganda looks like. People everywhere on the road, potholes, kind of a paved road and kind of traffic. And then I turn onto the new highway that goes directly into Kampala. I'm still 100 miles away from the city, but you can see it's a huge freeway, and the Chinese have just finished building this monster bridge across the very mouth of the river. I'm told it only opened a week ago, and it's simply huge. The scale of construction in East Africa is difficult to believe. Done with the city, I immediately race over to the west of the country and Fort Portal in the mountains. This is a beautiful area, and then from there I jet south, trying to get in the very southwestern corner of Queen Elizabeth National Park, specifically the area called Ishasha. This is really famous for the tree climbing lions, and as you can see, the scenery is simply breathtaking. Down in this corner of the country, I'm extremely close once again to the DRC, and not surprisingly, the landscape looks really familiar. Just like in Gabon, the Republic Congo and the DRC, there are huge green rolling mountains and this long green grass everywhere with the occasional tree. It's not thick jungle, even though the humidity is off the scale. Here I am inside the national park, and you can see there are just miles and miles of these tracks to explore, and for the entire time I'm in the park, I only see one other vehicle. It's extremely rugged and it feels amazing to be out here all by myself. I actually took this photo sitting in the driver's seat. He is easily bigger than the Jeep, and being all alone like this, he's probably not in a good mood. I'm here in Ishasha National Park right near the border of DRC. Massive storm on the horizon, lightning and thunder and rain's coming. And there's all these big open plains up with these famous lions that hang out in trees. Check this out, just in the distance over here, that is a massive herd of buffalo. I've never seen anything like it. Then I come across, and this is all antelope. And then in the distance behind them is another huge herd of buffalo. There must be like 1,000 animals in front of me right now. Earlier there was a huge herd of elephants as well. So, I mean, there's plenty of wildlife around. I'm standing on the open door of the Jeep right now because I guess I shouldn't get out of the car with lions around, but yeah, the landscape here is absolutely stunning. There's beautiful trees that I don't understand why the lions would hang out in them. So they can see above the small grass. But I'm going to keep my eyes peeled, hopefully find some tree-dwelling lions. Camping inside the park is only a couple of dollars, and as usual, I have the entire place to myself. I search all of the next day, but still can't locate any lions hanging out in the trees. I'm told they only do it when it's really hot, and unfortunately, the sky is let loose with a torrential downpour, the kind of which I haven't seen for a long time. I move on from Ishasha, and for the first time, I hear a bit of a strange noise under the Jeep. After diagnosing for a few miles, I realise the joint on the front drive shaft has once again died. For the first time in my life, after almost 100,000 combined miles on expedition, I pull out my tools and lie under the Jeep on the side of the road. I remove the front drive shaft and I'll just have to drive around in rear-wheel drive until I can get a replacement joint. The following day I move north and strike some huge roadworks where they're really building up the road. It takes a long time to make a few hundred miles and I'm exhausted by the end of the day when I push on towards Lake Albert, hoping to find a hot spring and a great camping site. Everything has been going so great in Uganda, I've been loving my time here. And then suddenly, everything goes oh so wrong.